Am I the only one who started seeing mysteries everywhere in the Gru and Minions movies while watching Minions and Monsters?
Good boy.
To kick things off, let's talk about one of the biggest mysteries that Minions and Monsters just threw right in our faces. At the end of the day, exactly how many Minion tribes are there around the world? Since it is pretty clear that the group of Minions led by Dick, which James, Henry, and Ed are a part of, is definitely not the same group of Minions that shows up in London and are led by Stuart, Kevin, and Bob in the first Minions movie. The first thing we need to consider is the timeline, since Minions and Monsters takes place in 1927, as shown on the clapperboard that James uses while shooting his movie. Right around the time when Kevin, Stuart, and Bob's main tribe was literally trapped and depressed inside an ice cave down in Antarctica. Remember that? The canon from the first movie establishes that they were isolated in the ice from Napoleon's defeat in 1812 all the way until 1968. In other words, if James, Dick, and their crew were out in Hollywood shooting movies and facing off against monsters in 1927, that proves, without a shadow of a doubt, that the yellow population split up and that there are other tribes out there around the globe. But then the mystery remains up in the air. How many tribes are we talking about here? And where are they located? Maybe we'll get more info on this huge enigma in Minions 4. Have you ever stopped to think about all the different kinds of aliens that have shown up in the Minions franchise? At the end of the day, how many are there? And where did they come from? For example, in Minions and Monsters we meet Dort, who is basically an alien robot that came to Earth to take over. But in the process, he falls in love with Debbie and ends up becoming the big boss to most of the Minions, who help him out on his date and then use Dort's ships to defeat Goomy and his monsters. However, way before that, in the Mooned short, we finally find out that our beloved and unlucky villain Vector wasn't all that alone out in space. Because when he tries to escape from the moon, he ends up landing on Mars and bumping into a genuine Martian. And there's more. Going back a little bit, let's look at the puppy short. In it, we see Dave the Minion literally adopting a living mini UFO that crashed down from space as if it were a little pet dog. After some time, the UFO heads back to space, confirming that its origin is 100% alien. The lingering question is, just how many more aliens are we going to see in the upcoming Minions and Gru movies anyway? Did you know that Gru actually has werewolf blood running through his veins? We find this out by rewatching that quick scene showing Gru's family tree in the first movie. If you pause it at the exact right moment, you'll see that one of his ancestors is explicitly a werewolf. This absolutely explains all of Gru's super abilities, like being able to knock out a giant shark with a single punch, dodging heat-seeking missiles like it's nothing, and having some pretty absurd agility. He isn't just a highly trained human. He's got the brute strength and the endurance of a legendary werewolf disguised inside a human body. And maybe it's because they can smell this quote-unquote scent of something superhuman in Gru's DNA that makes the Minions so obsessed with and so fiercely loyal to him.
And if we stop to think about it, our favorite despicable guy wouldn't be the first legendary creature they've served, since the Minions themselves were once lackeys for Count Dracula himself, and even for the Cyclops who loved to stomp on everything. Without a shadow of a doubt, one of the mysteries that torments fans of the franchise the most was revealed at the very end of Despicable Me 4, when we see all of Gru's enemies watching his and Maxime Lamal's musical performance. And right there among them is none other than Vector himself. But as everyone knows, he was basically trapped on Mars, where he met the Martian we mentioned just a little bit ago. So at the end of the day, how did he make it back to Earth? To answer this question, we have two theories. The first one involves the possibility that Vector managed to hitch a ride with another Martian, since he ended up rejecting the offer of help from the first Martian. The second theory would be that the AVL rescued Vector at the request of his dad, on the condition that the supervillain would go straight to maximum security prison, locking away his brilliant mind, and more than likely, confiscating any Martian gadgets he might have brought back in his luggage. But for now, it's all just theory. We're sure that at some point in the near future, the answer to this will be given. In the meantime, the mystery remains.
If you're enjoying the video, subscribe to the channel now so you don't miss any new videos.
Now let's talk about the one that Gru has always called a dog, but the lifespan math simply doesn't add up. Kyle. Just so you can get an idea of the size of this mystery, when the critter goes through the AVL security scanner, the result on the screen is crystal clear: unknown species. If you jog your memory and pay very close attention to the Minions movie, you will notice that young Gru already had Kyle way back in the 1960s, when he was just a little kid taking his very first steps into villainy. This means that Gru has had this little pet for over 50 years. The oldest dog in the world in our real life didn't even make it to 30. So how is it that Kyle is still going strong, healthy, and terrorizing the neighborhood after half a century? The answer to this lies in this little guy's own completely bizarre DNA. In the official materials from Universal Studios, it states that he is actually half dog, half piranha. But hold on a second. Piranhas live on average for only about 10 years, so crossing the species doesn't solve the mystery of his age at all. It just makes everything even crazier. What could the explanation for all of this possibly be? Between the beginning of the first Despicable Me and the end of the fourth movie, a whole lot of stuff happened. Gru stopped being a villain. He got recruited by the Anti-Villain League, met Lucy, they dated, got married, Lucy got pregnant, and they had the adorable baby Gru Jr., who is already crawling around. If we add up all of these events, at least 3 to 4 whole years must have passed within the universe of the franchise. With all this time going by, shouldn't the girls, Margot, Edith, and Agnes, have grown up at least a little bit? Margot, who was 12 years old in the first movie, should already be around 15 or 16 by now. Edith should be about 12, and little Agnes would already be hitting 9 or 10 years of age. But they look exactly the same as they did in the first movie. The exact same height, the same clothes, the same childish features. Not a single one of them has grown even a single inch in all these years. Which is definitely really weird and doesn't make any sense at all, don't you think? So, drop a clock emoji down in the comments if this flaw in the timeline completely blew your mind too. Now let's talk about one of the biggest mysteries in the entire franchise: Dru's fate. If you jog your memory and remember the epic ending of Despicable Me 3, Gru's twin brother runs away, stealing our protagonist's ship, taking a huge chunk of the Minions with him, and declaring that the family tradition in villainy was going to continue. Gru gives him a 5-minute head start before going after him. But then it cuts to Despicable Me 4, and Gru has a new baby. The whole family needs to go on the run and assume new identities to escape Maxime Le Mal. And Dru vanishes. Our theory is that he got captured by the Anti-Villain League almost immediately after his escape in the third movie. Except, instead of throwing Gru's blonde twin into a maximum security prison, the AVL realized that he inherited an entire island, billions of dollars, and a high-tech arsenal from their dad. The AVL struck a deal with him. Either you go to jail, or you start working for us secretly to pay for your crimes. That would perfectly explain his disappearance in the fourth movie. Don't you agree? Speaking of disappearances, let's move on to the case of director Valerie Da Vinci, who takes over Silas Ramsbottom's place as the head of the AVL in Despicable Me 3. Her very first and pretty much only act as the top leader of the AVL, summarily firing Gru and Lucy simply because they failed to capture the villain, Balthazar Brat. And that is exactly where our conspiracy alarm goes off. How did Brat know, almost in real time, that Gru was no longer a secret agent. The information about a top-level firing at the world's largest spy agency should be strictly confidential. But the villain was already celebrating it on his very next heist. The only theory that perfectly fills in this gigantic plot hole is that Valerie Da Vinci was an undercover informant, secretly working for Balthazar Bratt the whole time. What backs up this theory is that after Bratt's defeat, Valerie just completely vanishes from the story, is never seen again, and isn't even mentioned in the rest of the franchise. This is for sure a mystery that feels like it was cut out of the original movie, don't you think? Now let's talk about the mystery that tied our brains into knots: the confusing timeline in Despicable Me. When we analyze the chronology of this universe, the numbers and dates just simply don't make any sense. Think about it with me. In the first movie, we see on Gru's ID that he was born in the year 1960. That date makes total sense when we see that flashback of him still as a kid, building a little macaroni rocket and wearing a cardboard box on his head while he watches the famous Apollo 11 launch to the moon that took place in 1969, meaning when Gru would have been around 9 years old. On top of that, at the end of the Minions movie, which takes place in the year 1968, Gru shows up to steal the Queen's crown and frees Scarlet Overkill, and he looks to be exactly the same 9 years old there, which still makes sense since he was born in 1960. But in Minions: The Rise of Gru, the timeline skips ahead to 1976, and it's revealed that Gru is 11 3/4 years old. By basic logic, if he was almost turning 12 in 1976, he would have been born in 1964. This means that, at the end of Minions in 1968, he should have been just a little 4-year-old baby, and not an ice master piloting a flying rocket bike.
We'll stop here, but you can still keep watching more incredible videos. Just click on either of these two appearing for you. Until next time.